The first thing that I'm going to do to create this pillow is get some yarn. I got this from Dollar Tree. It's in this beautiful kind of rust red orange tone. I think it's going to look really good as a pumpkin pillow. I'm not sure exactly what this one's called. If I find out, I will leave that in the description box. I do know it's a size 4, and the size of the needle I'm going to be using is a size K, which I believe is a 6mm. 6 or a 6.5. Again, I will leave all the details linked in the description below. So I'm just going to show you the basic pattern. So the first thing you want to do is create a slip stitch. So go ahead and do that. And if you don't know how to crochet, I will leave tutorials linked down below for beginners. So now that we have our slip stitch on, loop around and pull through the loop. Kind of lightly tighten, but you want it fairly loose like this. Okay, and then do the same thing and just pull a loop through the loop. That's all you're really doing, and you are creating a chain. Go ahead and chain 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 32, 33, 34, 35, 38, 39, and 40. Okay, I have my 40. After you've chained 40 loops together like this, we're going to do a half double crochet stitch into the third loop. So we just count 1, 2, and 3. So how to do that is we will yarn over first, insert into the third loop, yarn over, pull up a loop through that loop, and then you should have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through all 3, and then we will just keep repeating that all the way down. So yarn over and then go into that next stitch, which right next to it, yarn over, pull up a loop. Again, there's 3, yarn over and pull through all 3, yarn over through that next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3. So we're just doing what is called a half double crochet stitch all the way down the chain. And again, I will link a tutorial down below of me explaining half double crochet stitches, as I did some tutorials of crocheting a while back on my channel, and it was really fun. And I also will leave the original video of where I got this pattern to make this gorgeous pumpkin. Okay, I'm on the last stitch here. Alright, so now we're going to be turning our work to the back side. Go ahead and chain 2, 1, 2, and then flip it over so it's the other way. This is the back side of the work. From here, it's a little hard to see because the yarn is so small. So instead of working in like these 2 loops like we normally would, you would either use this loop, both loops, or the back. We're actually going to be using this loop right here. It's crossing, so there's a loop here and here. It's like the one right there. And we're not going to go into this side over here because this is now going straight up, you can see. But we need to yarn over and then go through that loop. Okay, yarn over and pull up a loop through there. You got 3, yarn over through all 3. The same thing. It's just finding that loop is going to be the difficult part of this pattern. And what this is gonna do is actually push these pieces forward like this. It's gonna push them forward instead of working into them. It's gonna create this nice kind of like line all the way down, and it's gonna look so good for making little pumpkins. I hope my tutorial is of help. Okay, so I'm approaching the end. I'm gonna loop around, and the last one's gonna be right here. Okay, and that completes that row. So I'll just chain 2 and turn the work. So loop around, and instead of going on this side, we want to go on this side this time around. So you would go into this loop right here. Once you start going with the next row, it'll be so much easier to see that loop, because it's on what I call the back side here. Let's see what it's looking like. So this is the back side. If you flip it, that's the other side, and that's what I was talking about. It leaves these beautiful lines going down, and it's just going to keep creating them when we keep doing the pattern. I'm going to go ahead and finish this row, and we'll do another row so you can see how row 3 works, because this is row 2. After row 3, then I will finish the rest off camera. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and chain 2 and flip my work, and now we're on row 3. Yarn over, and this time, because we want the work to push towards us, we'll be going on this side, and we don't go into this area. It's like the very first stitch, so it'll be right here. We want these to push this way, so right here. I'm gonna finish the rest of this off camera. So I did, like I said, 40 going this way, and we want to create probably about 3 feet long, like piece, rectangle piece, and then I'll show you how to do the pumpkin part. I went ahead off camera and I just wanted to make this pumpkin a little bit more dimensional with the coloring, so I just kind of weaved in some different variations of like a terracotta color here. Kind of went with the flow. A little bit of yellowy mustard colors in there as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish off this last row, and then we will go ahead and connect the sides together. And just in case you aren't familiar with how to add in different colors, if you want to do something similar, I do have tutorials on how to do that. I will link some other ones down below in the description box as well, so that way you can kind of get an idea of how that works, because there is multiple ways you can go about it. I just finished my last stitch right there. So in my craft room, I have this old pillow decor piece that I made a long time ago on my channel. It was really fun for a while, but this type of yarn, this wool thick yarn, it gathers all these gross things, like anything that touches it, it just attracts and it won't come off. Like if you throw this in the wash machine, it will get ruined. This will kind of mat up and the stuff won't come out. It'll still be in there. So I had originally stuffed this with an old t-shirt and other just things to kind of fill this. So instead of throwing this away, I decided I'm gonna go ahead and turn this into my pumpkin filling instead. What I wanted to do was just make sure that this was going to fit around it. And you want this to be pretty tight, like this. And I think that it's the perfect height to fit all the way around it. So it will work for me. So I'm gonna set that down on the floor. Now we can go ahead and attach both of our ends together to create like a big loop. Basically, we want to attach this together. To do that, I'm going to do a slip stitch right sides together. So this will be the right side because this gives us our nice texture. This is the back side, which is also a nice texture, but this is not the side we want. So we have our one loop that's from our last stitch that we just completed with that row. So what I'm going to do here is actually just pop in my hook, loop around, and I want to pull that through both loops. And then we can just keep going. So I'll go into this stitch here and then pull up a loop through both loops. So I'm just going through the end loops on one side, then go to the other, then pull up a loop, pull that loop through all of the loops on your hook. And I like to pull this pretty tight as I'm working this down. You guys, I think my cat is dreaming right now. Let me see if I can show you. She's so freaking cute. Okay, now that my sides are now connected, I should have a large loop. I'm going to go ahead and tie this off. Go like that a couple times. And then I can work this into right here. Go ahead and trim your thread off. Now we can turn this inside out. And we should have a large, basically like ongoing loop. And you should not be able to tell where we connected it, but we connected right here, in case you can't tell. Now we'll go ahead and cinch up each side. So we'll go ahead and do one side first. And how I'm going to do that is by putting a loop on to my crochet hook. And then we're just going to go around into each thing, and we'll just end up pulling the yarn through like this, like right in here, and pull up a loop. So I'm just going every other big space to really help cinch this in further. And you really want to get more of a chunk of the piece, like this much. That way you know your thing won't open later on. So it cinched it up a lot, but it's still not quite collapsed in how I want it. So now I'm just going to go over it again, and we're skipping spaces all over again. We're doing the same thing. So now it's cinched it up even more. So at this point, I think it's okay to go ahead and just put your needle in like this, and you want to make sure you're going into the chains, like the stitches we just did, and you want to just go through like this, pull this through. So again, we're going in the big stitches, or the stitches right here, and I'm pulling through 2 of them at a time, and then through that last loop. And it don't have to be perfect, because this part is going to be going inwards anyways when it's said and done. Okay, now we'll just go ahead and leave this right here. I want to tie it off with like 1, but I want this to go into the other side. So what I'll do is take my hook and put it in the inside. Come up through the middle here and grab it. pull that loop through. Okay, here it is. Now we'll go ahead and stuff it. Make sure we have this loop. So what I'll end up doing here is put this on a needle and I'll put it through the middle of this. Okay, so now I can put this stuffing down inside of my new pumpkin covering. We'll call it that, I guess. Just kind of lightly push it in there, and then this will be right in the middle of this thing. And then when we pull this, it'll pull that. So we want that really, really tight. Now, I will tighten it as we start going, but I have all this. I'm going to take this off the needle and we'll start to crochet again. Okay, I'm gonna need to add a little bit more of our color. And then I'm going to cut some more of this off and we'll pull this through so we have just the string. So I kind of just knotted it off like that. Okay. I'm going to pull this string through the middle again so we can really cinch this in to look like a pumpkin. So just go ahead and pop this into the middle and then we'll push it through the other side, hoping not to hit. There it is. Okay, I got the needle, and we'll just pull this all the way through this side, and this will help kind of pull this in like this. And then I'm going to tie a knot, like push this down and tie a knot right here onto this to keep on and make the definition stand out a bit more. We will just leave this string on and then bring it down like this through these lines and just really pull that tight, and we'll go back in through the center again. And this is our pillow pumpkin. But I do want to show you how I'm going to create the little stem so it's a nice finished look. Kind of shape it how you would shape a little pumpkin. Okay, so how I'm going to make the little stem part for the pumpkin. I have a little piece of foam. This was cut from a pool noodle from Dollar Tree and an old sock. Gonna place the pool noodle into the sock like this. Stretch that over it. And then I will pull this down so it slightly curves like this. You can pull it down like as much as you want. Then I'm going to wrap this whole thing with yarn. And I have a brown, like a light brown colored yarn. I'm going to be wrapping. I think this color will look really good as a little stem. It's like a gray brown. We'll start at this end here just by tying a knot just like this. Maybe do a double knot so it doesn't come loose. Okay, and then take that end and hold it in place, and then you can start wrapping around. So I'm going to wrap a couple this way I'm gonna wrap this way and then back down, so I know it's really, really wrapped. However big you want your stem is how big you'll cut that piece of foam. So I would say the foam size is actually less than like half an inch, and it's because the sock kind of has a little bit of bulkiness to it, which kind of helps with our stem though, to give it that cushiony but hard, you know, feel. This end piece might be a little bit tricky. I'm kind of like wrapping at a weird angle to try to fill in those little spots, and then I'm wrapping around this kind of as I go. All right, I think that's good. And then just make sure you wrap a couple more times right there, just so this doesn't come undone. Okay, I'm gonna just leave this because this part's gonna be going down inside of the pumpkin, so it's not that big of a deal. So once you're done wrapping, we can go ahead and trim off. So we'll grab our pumpkin, and it's gonna just, this piece will go down in the center there. And I'm gonna really try to push it in there to hide it. And then I also want to make sure I secure it, so I'm going to stitch it down as well. This part's gonna be a little hard. I'm just basically going in the bottom of the stem and I'm pushing it down. And then just kind of work my way around. And there is our cute little stem that goes with this pumpkin pillow.